Recent lockdown restrictions on the garden route is devastating tourism in the area. 1 in every 3 guest houses say they've lost half their bookings this festive season. That's according to an online survey run by online accommodation booking system provider NightsBridge. Its managing director, Teresa Emmerich, joins us. Very good morning to you, Teresa. Quite devastating findings. I mean, 50% of business has just been wiped out.
Yes, it really is devastating. We asked 190 guest houses who responded, clients in the garden route, said that they'd lost bookings, and many are, 12 of them at least are facing closure, having lost almost all of their bookings, more than 80%, and 4 of them 100%, all of their bookings. When one quotes these numbers, what you have to realize is that 477 bookings were wiped out within 14 hours after the announcement on Monday evening. And those bookings in the garden route or over holiday periods are generally a lot longer. So one booking can have an incredible effect on the revenue of a smaller guest house.
And what areas worst hit? I believe Knysna's really taken the brunt of this.
Yes, Plettenberg Bay, of course, because they also had the problem after the rage that had been cancelled. Mossel Bay, the Wilderness, and of course Knysna, Sedgefield area. They were the ones that the hardest hit. The bookings, these numbers that we were quoting, because we also quoted some that where there was a 4 million revenue lost in just 12 hours, but those revenue numbers also meant that people had discounted their rates. So anything that you listen to in terms of revenue, you can almost double, because people had been already deeply discounting their prices to try and get people to their areas.
And Teresa, I should imagine that gearing up for this invasion that they were hoping to get, they would have hired possibly more staff, they would have had to spend more money on getting ready.
Absolutely. Most guest houses were hoping to recoup some of their losses that they've had during this pandemic this year and were closed for a long time. Not only did they gear up in terms of getting ready, they got all of their protocols in place, everything that they needed to make sure that their guests would be safe during this time, and that cost a lot of money. So even, when you're open and you're waiting for guests, even the sort of the last minute walk-in person, and you're having to open, that costs you a lot. And of course, I think you just heard Shafiwa just before I spoke, but the economic impact in the area is that knock-on effect that I think that a lot of people forget. It's not just the activity businesses and the accommodation businesses, but it's also the shops, from gift shops to clothing stores to the supermarkets who suffer, as well as small traders. So the knock-on effect is really scary and incredibly detrimental to all of these small coastal towns that rely on tourism.
I should imagine they're incredibly angry as well. I mean, a lot of people are questioning, the sense behind closing beaches, those massive wide open spaces. What are some of the reasons that people have cancelled, other than not being able to go to the beach?
Well, people cancelled because they're afraid, because I think the hotspots have been identified, and they also cancelled because some of their flights were cancelled. Some people couldn't get here. So the curfews also affected flights, which then had a knock-on effect to some people being able to come for their bookings, because not all of those flights were immediately replaced. And yes, I think people were concerned about the beaches. If the intention was to not have people travel to the garden route, well, then that certainly worked. But if the intention is to avoid the spread of COVID, then it doesn't seem either rational or scientific to force people off the beaches into smaller areas. In the garden route, we've now had many reports where people are off the beach, but on a river mouth, or in a smaller area where they actually now are congregating much more than they would have on a smaller beach, or some of these incredibly long, wide beaches that we have in the garden route. So it does seem petty.
Mind-boggling. Teresa, good to talk to you. Thank you. Let's take a look now.